are Popcorn, Piss, and Vinegar, giving you a raw take on movies, television, and pop culture. My name's Chris.
I'm Scott.
I'm Ray.
And we have Ray Legendre right back with us again. He helped us do our review on The Rise of Skywalker. And if you want to check that out, you can go into our backlog either on iTunes or YouTube and give that a listen.
John's not here because he's actually watching Rise of Skywalker again.
Yeah,
so we figured we'd get...
We might never see John again because he might slash his wrist after that. So we'll have to see what happens. We know he's if he's watching the Joker, he's a fucking goner. I mean, we'll be having a memorial episode for him.
Not even how I'm gonna do that.
So that's all that. Well, we enjoyed having Ray so much we invited him back to do a full-on analysis, review, what have you, of Disney Plus's The Mandalorian. So I mean, here it is. Basic plot. We're sold that there's this Mandalorian bounty hunter, which is kind of in the vein of Boba Fett, Jango Fett. If you're familiar with the Star Wars lore, the Mandalorians are kind of like this billed as being this badass warrior culture that stretches back all the way to the beginning of the Republic. And we end up with a show that ends up not being so much about a bounty hunter, but about a guy who starts out as a bounty hunter and then realizes that based on some things that have happened in his past, he needs to help somebody in a situation just like he was in. And he ends up being more of a father than end up being a bounty hunter that's just making kills to rack up money. And we get probably the most memeable character in the history of memeable characters, Baby Yoda.
Yeah.
Colloquially called Baby Yoda.
Yeah. Favreau says he has a name.
Yes, I think it's going to be Kevin. That's what I'm going
nice.
with. Taika Waititi says that he knows the character's name. He tweeted it the other day. He says that the character's name is Nigel. So,
sounds about right.
So yeah, I don't know. If Nigel or Kevin in the Old English means fuckloads of money, then that's
perfect.
Yeah, that's absolutely it. So, the production of the show is the kind of history of the show is Jon Favreau is over at Skywalker Sound mixing down Iron Man. He meets Dave Filoni, who is working on Clone Wars. Dave Filoni ends up being the first guy who sees Iron Man. They kind of get to talking, and Favreau mentions how much he loves the Mandalorians. Filoni says, well, what do you know? Why don't you come over to the sound booth and voice this Mandalorian character, who ends up being Pre Vizsla, who's like one of the Mandalorian leaders of Death Watch. You can get all that shit on Clone Wars. I'm not going to go deep diving on all that stuff, but excellent storyline and kind of sets up the basis for this show. And then Favreau just starts writing episodes, and they pull together this incredible teams of directors. And they start doing the things that George Lucas did by creating innovative technology to bring Star Wars to the small screen. And here we are. I'll kick it off with you, Ray. I mean, what did you think of the show overall?
Personally, I think that this was the direction Star Wars should have taken after Return of the Jedi. With this prequel business and sequel business. I mean, I think if they'd have started here and then built from there, I think they would have had a lot more success and a lot less fan division, because as much division as there was with Last Jedi and recently Rise of Skywalker, there's almost no fan division here, if you'll notice, with The Mandalorian. It's almost universally accepted and acclaimed.
Yeah, I mean, there's always going to be somebody who doesn't who doesn't like something, but I mean, this is what you really have is most people like it.
Yeah,
and that's what you want is most people to like something.
Not only that, but most people know what it is. Because of the Baby Yoda thing,
right? It's
sort of like, hey, what's that from? Oh, it's from Star Wars. What? Oh, The Mandalorian. It's from that Disney show. Like, it's free marketing. If there was ever any free marketing, they're getting it.
It has got to be the most successful. It has got to be the most successful, I guess, example of free marketing that I've ever seen. I mean, this fucking thing is everywhere. This Baby Yoda. It is. I mean, if you think of like
everywhere, but in the stores.
Yeah. Exactly.
Well, and if you think about it, you go back to the original Star Wars. The same thing happened with the merchandising back then, where they weren't expecting it to be this huge runaway hit. So when Christmas time came around and parents were looking for Star Wars toys, there were none. So same thing with Baby Yoda. It's just nobody really saw this coming, and it just took
Well,
off.
I think Favreau didn't want to spoil it though, which
Yeah,
is why.
that's what he went on record saying, look, I mean, we probably shot ourselves in the foot by not having merchandise ready to go when this thing launched. But I wanted to keep it as a surprise to the fans. I didn't want it to become this big thing. And, you know, there's a million arguments that can be made, and John and I have this argument nonstop about how, you know, John said, well, I know how to bill it and all this shit. I know how to bill it to where they could have got away with it and all that stuff. Man, it's not... The internet has made the information and the world, the ability to share, it's easy. It's so easy to do now. And the thing with it is, man, is that Star Wars nerds come from all walks of life. I mean, dude, there's fucking CEOs playing cutthroat business practices that fucking love Han Solo and Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker and all these characters. And the thing with it is, man, is that it just takes one nerd to sit there and look at something in a catalog, because they still have to sell these things to investors of big box toy companies who may not know what Star Wars is. So when you go and say, oh, it's a Yoda baby doll, like a Muppet baby. Oh, okay, here's more fucking Star Wars shit that hasn't been selling on the shelf.
Right. Yeah.
Because the merchandise is down because of these new movies, but that's a whole different subject. But I mean, it takes one person to sit there and say, oh, look what the Mandalorian's going to do. I mean, that came as a total surprise to me when I saw that first episode. I'm like, holy shit. I mean, that was holy
Really,
shit was my...
Yeah, that was
In
my
a
reaction
state
as
of
well.
affairs where nothing is secret anymore. That was secret.
Yeah.
Like, they held on to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I admire him for that. I mean, I like the fact that I'm a person. Scott avoids shit on purpose, like trailers and behind the scenes featurettes and stuff like that.
I did that for Rise of Skywalker. I completely avoided everything.
Man, I eat
Boy,
that.
I waste my time.
Yeah, well,
I eat that shit up, man. I mean, dude, when Mandalorian launched, I watched Favreau and Filoni's presentation from Celebration. I watched the interviews. I watched the featurettes. I probably had an hour and a half to 2 hours of content of Mandalorian stuff before I even watched the show. And even having that, I had no clue about this Baby Yoda character. So, I mean, yeah, it's pretty amazing, you know, as far as that shit, so. Oh, Scott, what about you, man? Sorry about that.
No, I enjoyed it as well. Like, I think they hit the nail on the head in the time frame of like 25 to 35 minutes per episode, just enough action, not enough drama, and not enough, walking as Lord of the Rings. They didn't, there wasn't one of these things where I had to sit and wait for an hour for something to happen. It was like everything happened. You had about 15 minutes of dialogue and sort of whatever story building, and then about 15 minutes of action and and it kept moving. It just, every episode was like that. And then, you might have like where episode 1 was Baby Yoda, surprise. Episode 3, I think, was where all the Mandalorians come in at the end and sort of tear ass.
Absolutely amazing. Yeah.
The Bill Burr episode was really good.
I want to see more of Mayfeld character.
I think you'll see him more.
Yeah, I thought he was fantastic.
Every episode sort of had like a gem to deliver, and they were able to deliver it in a 30-minute time frame, which doesn't really happen. You watch those movies, and even those movies didn't really deliver on that. So.
Well, we call them bottle episodes, and there's 2 bottle episodes that are in the series, maybe 3. The bottle episodes being the one when he returns to Tatooine. There's also the episode with Bill Burr, old girl from Game of Thrones that played the wildling, and also Clancy Brown. Those you had that deal there, and then also it's kind of a bottle episode, but you are introduced to Cara Dune in the 4th episode with the villagers and all, so it kind of fits into the mythology. But episodes 1, 2, 3, 7, and 8 are one big story arc,
right,
where it kind of like brings everything together.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of shows have those, like you say, those bottle episodes, or what I like to call fillers. So many great shows have had that.
Well, X-Files was very popular for it.
X-Files and also Burn Notice. I mean, Burn Notice was loaded with those bottle episodes, but still, it was, all part of the continuity, and it gelled, it worked. It just worked, but, I guess if they're going to extend the amount of episodes that they have, you're going to have fillers from time to time.
But I don't think, I really don't feel like we had any fillers in this. Even though there were a couple of bottle episodes, they were still very entertaining as hell.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, I'm not taking away the entertainment value from that. I'm just saying that it just seemed a little bit disjointed. I'm not complaining. Believe me, I think it's a fantastic series, and not perfect. I still have just a couple of tiny little issues with it, but that's kind of what you have to come to expect from television, these days. So,
well, I mean, I look at it this way. People in our generation kind of hold the original Star Wars trilogy, not the other shit, but the first three movies, our generation holds that with great reverence because, I mean, yeah, we were kids when that came out, but I think what made it such a phenomenon was the fact that even adults, our parents who had taken us to see those movies, no one ever saw anything like that. Absolutely, and the thing with it is the younger generation now is so used to these, high effect, high shelf CGI. The thing with it is that, the thing of honoring what came before it is kind of becomes boring to some people.
Yeah.
And the thing with it is that you have to learn to kind of update things. Well, look, with this Star Wars, I mean, honestly, I don't think anything in the writing in The Mandalorian really is actually special. The writing is very basic. But the thing with it is, though, is that the characters are so great and so
I was going to say that.
And
the episode where Cara Dune is introduced and they go help those villagers against the Weequay Marauders or whatever, that was, I mean, ripped right from Seven Samurai or Magnificent Seven. I mean, it was almost a carbon copy of that, but you cared about the characters so much, and you threw in the Scout Walker and teaching everybody how to fight and use blasters. It just really. It was, even though it was more or less a recycled idea, they still took it and made it Star Wars and made it enjoyable.
Well, Jon Favreau, in one of these interviews, Pedro Pascal, when he was given the role, he even asked Favreau, he says, what movie should I be watching? And Favreau told him, he said, you should watch anything Akira Kurosawa or anything by Sergio Leone, in particular Clint Eastwood.
Yeah.
So, I mean, even Pedro Pascal said, when I started playing the character, I kind of modeled him after stuff that I saw in Clint Eastwood spaghetti westerns. Oh, and what else is pretty cool, too, is, and this is something we said on the show before, Pedro Pascal's stunt double for The Mandalorian is John Wayne's grandson.
Get out.
So how fucking appropriate is that? That's just so cool.
That's awesome.
But anyway, back to it real quick. I think what kind of is the magic of this show, like the original movies, is that Favreau is integrating a lot of technology to bring Star Wars to the small screen. And he talks about how they have this 3-dimensional video village where they can virtually build sets that you can walk on and look at to see how shots and backgrounds of things are going to look. I mean, really high-end shit. And he said it's all stuff that I learned making Marvel movies and Lion King and all that stuff. He said, I'm utilizing the same technology. I'm making these big movies. And I think that's Favreau in a way. We're seeing him kind of like as a junior version of George Lucas, in a respect that he's a big idea guy. He's a really charismatic guy, unlike George Lucas. But, I mean, he's a big idea guy, and the thing with it is he's got his finger on the pulse of that technology. And I think that's why so many people are kind of like really, really want him to take over Lucasfilm, because he can bring what George Lucas did when he invented the fucking thing.
Well, Favreau has been a Star Wars fan for, all of his life. He's more or less the same age as we are.
Uh-huh.
But in one of his early films, Swingers, when him and Vince Vaughn are driving to Vegas, there's an establishing shot of them on the highway, and the license plate says THX1138 on it.
Uh-huh.
And then when they try to pick up the girls in the casino, and they were successful, he says, man, that was great. That was like the Jedi mind shit, So he's been a fan all this time, and I think that's what the Star Wars brand needs right now those types of people to take care of it, because since they are fans, they know, what the other fans expect. They know what to do to keep it Star Wars, not like what Rian Johnson did. Well, I'm going to go off and do my own thing. I'm going to make it this. I'm going to do that. I'm going to change it. You really can't do that with Star Wars.
Well, it's like we said in the Rise of Skywalker review. Right. The thing with it is there's ways to take risk while still honoring the legacy of these movies.
And it's a balance. It's a fine balance. But if you've got somebody who's a fan themselves, I think they're going to put a little more care into what they're doing. I think they're going to put a little more thought into what they're doing, rather than just say, "Oh, here, this is my version, and this is it right here. Here you go, crank it out."
But also, and the thing with Favreau as well, you talk about balance. Like, he is a fan, but he's also made some big budget.
Oh, absolutely.
So he knows,
absolutely, yeah.
Hey, I have fandom in one hand, but I also have the general public in the other hand, and I have to appease both.
Mm-hmm.
So well, I think the thing with it is that he's part of that general public. Just the thing with it is that he's a top shelf, blockbuster filmmaker. I think he's just like us. I mean, Jon Favreau. I bet if Jon Favreau hung out here and just was chilling right here, I'm sure that he'd be saying the same shit we're saying, about Star Wars in general. I mean, he's a fan,
right?
And that's where it all starts. I mean, look at Kevin Smith, a guy who's a lot more kind of grounded and down to earth. I mean, that dude's us. I mean, he's the one. I mean, you can say whatever you want about his movies. I understand that. I mean, it's kind of John says a lot of shit, about his methods of filmmaking, which I agree with. But the thing with it is that he's the guy who brought all that shit to the forefront. While we were sitting there walking around malls and fucking off and talking about nerd shit, talking about comic books and movies we saw and games we played and all this different shit. I mean, Kevin Smith put that in a movie, and that was us, talking on the screen, So it's good to see these kind of people kind of becoming the custodians of Star Wars. I've seen some people kind of complain that there's not enough episodes and they're not long enough. I disagree.
I totally disagree.
High action, fast, quick, and I think another thing too is a lot of bang for the buck.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing. It's bang for the buck. I mean, do you want 1 hour of something to where they definitely have to skimp in some areas? Or do you want 35 to 40 minutes of lean and mean? I mean, granted, there's some suspect special effects and that stuff that looks like shit, but I mean, it's it's forgivable. I
haven't really noticed, and you know how I am about CGI. I haven't really noticed any terrible CGI.
I found the production value, especially in the CGI department, to be really on point, especially for the small screen. Normally you don't see that level on the small screen. I mean, if you go back and think of the old Star Trek: The Next Generation, I mean, you see it and it's like, well, it's obviously that's computer designed and all that. I mean, it was a little robotic, a little too static, but I don't find that with The Mandalorian. I think it's all very well done as far as the special effects are concerned.
What didn't you like?
Hello.
What didn't you like?
What didn't I like? I don't know. I kind of had one issue with the retconning of the Mandalorians not taking their helmets off, whereas
that might not be retcon though.
Well, that I know that remains to be seen, but I'm kind of like, they're on this shtick the whole series. Hey, has anybody seen your face? Have you taken your helmet off? And even when the bounty hunter droid says, he tells the bounty hunter droid, no human can ever see my face. But I mean, Jango Fett takes his helmet off a lot in the prequel series. Sabine in the Rebel series. A bunch of Mandalorians in the Clone Wars series.
All of that takes place before this.
Yeah, and I get that. So I'm sure that they're going to try to find some kind of way to explain that away and make make sense.
Also, but Jango's a clone, so everybody knows what he looks like.
Well, no, Jango was a Mandalorian, wasn't he?
I don't know. I think that's
his son,
contested.
Boba Fett was a clone.
Yeah, Boba Fett's a clone.
Yeah,
is a clone of Jango Fett.
Yeah, but I don't know if that was specifically established.
But everybody looks like. Wasn't that the point? Everybody looks.
Jango Fett.
The OG
Jango Fett is the model for the clone troopers.
Right. So they would all know what he looks like. So it wouldn't matter if he had his helmet off or not. Like, that guy wouldn't be. Now, I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying that guy wouldn't be the The original. Hey,
Well,
nobody sees my face.
Well, we don't have to worry about him because I mean his head got separated from his shoulders. Like about a couple of days after he did all that shit. But this is what I think. I think what happens is that there's going to be more on this Imperial Purge and how the Empire basically kicks the shit out of the Mandalorians. And I think the thing with it is that the whole thing, this is the way, all of that stuff is all going to come to the forefront of, look, we really, really embrace the very old ways.
Yeah.
We got away from that. If we're going to bring it back, let's bring it back the way it once was.
And I love that where you see the old stormtroopers where their armor's all beat up and it's dirty and it's rusted and dented and so I mean and they establish that, hey, these are remnants of the Empire and that's good. I get that. But I love how you still see the old speeder bikes, when they had the two biker scouts taking pot shots at that piece of junk, and of course they missed.
Of course.
But they have, they're using all these old things, like even when when he goes to collect the bounty on Baby Yoda, or go pick him up, and he knocks on the door, and the little robotic arm comes out with the
the Jabba the Hutt door greeter.
The door greeter. I love all those little touches that they throw in there because like you said, it's kind of embracing the old ways, even though it takes place after that. But I mean, still seeing familiar things like that reminds us, hey, this is still Star Wars.
Right.
This is still the same universe, the same
but
same
unlike
universe that we've known.
But unlike Episode 9, it's not thrown up in our faces. It's very subtle and just like, remember, this is the universe. Go about your life.
We call it member berries from South Park. I don't know if you've seen that episode, but I think the thing with it is that the first episode of The Mandalorian is the only member berry heavy episode. After that, it kind of like starts to break off on its own mythology. I mean, that's really, the Star Wars stuff is there, but it's not thrown in your face. Right. It kind of rides in the background. Going back to the CGI thing, the only real suspect CGI that I thought looked horribly bad was when Quill, who's voiced by Nick Nolte, first time they meet.
I have to say, it was a very bold move on Nick Nolte's part to appear on screen without makeup. I thought that was brilliant.
Adam Zenner, who's been on our show before, he said that perfectly. I was like, dude, Nick Nolte's playing an Ugnaught. He goes, dude, Nick Nolte looks like an Ugnaught. So I mean, it worked out perfectly. But Nick Nolte, when he first meets Mandalorian, he rides these animals that are called blurgs, that are kind of like these real goofy looking green lizard things, and that's taken directly from Ewok Caravan of Courage. That's where it made its first appearance.
Yeah, I remember that.
Which I thought Favreau was hilarious, is that he pulled all this shit from the Christmas special and the Ewok movies. Which is great is I heard that the new trilogy, episode 7, 8, and 9, is now being known as the Caravan of Garbage. I saw that today. So, but anyway. There's a scene when he's teaching the Mandalorian how to ride the blurg, and they go and ride off. That's the worst looking CGI in the whole series. Other than that, I mean, you fast forward it to episode 8 when they get involved and basically they have to shoot their way out when IG-11 comes in there and kind of rescues them and shit.
Yeah.
Jeez, man. I mean, everything about it is perfect. I mean, the effects, the laser shots, everything going on.
I really appreciated.
Fucking awesome, dude.
I really appreciated seeing the IG-11 or the IG series droid in action. Because you only got to see it in Empire, and he's just standing there motionless. And I think, what was it? Robot Chicken even had a little skit about that where they said, hey, is this thing working? Vader's lecturing all the bounty hunters about what he expects, and hey, is this thing even listening to us? Because it's standing perfectly still. So I enjoyed seeing the IG droid in action, and I loved the robotic moves and the constant swiveling of the head and the arms and just laying blaster fire all over the place. I thought that was brilliant.
Yeah, it's really cool. The characters are incredibly likable.
Yes,
they're
all of them. Even the bad guys. Like again, we talked about it. Bill Burr as Mayfeld.
Yeah,
he was a bad guy, but I loved the character. I thought he was great. I even liked Clancy Brown as the Deveronian. I thought he was great. It just, even though these are small characters that may or may not have insignificant roles, which may later be expanded in other seasons, but regardless of whether or not, I just enjoy them. I like Grief Karga. I think Carl Weathers. When I heard he was going to be in it, I'm like, what? Apollo Creed? What? But I actually liked the character.
His acting is a little suspect, but he became a lot more likable in that 8th episode.
Yeah.
I like when they're trying to figure out how they're going to shoot their way out, and they're coming down to the point to where they're going to do it. He's there drinking booze and taking all the shots so he can calm down, That was great shit. Yeah, I mean, I really like it. I think it's a superb show. I mean, look, it's not perfect. It has its issues, but I mean, it's what you want to. It's Star Wars. It does what Star Wars is supposed to do.
Yeah.
It plays on the hero's journey. It plays on the mythology of American myth, and that's what it does.
I also appreciated.
It's great, man.
I also appreciated the insight too of the Mandalorian's armor, the Beskar steel, and the different weapons, because I mean everybody knew Boba Fett had armor with all of these weapons and different gadgets and stuff in it, but we only really saw a couple of, like the little rope lanyard that he launched at Luke when he was on the skiff, and
you get them when you play the game. When you play the game, you get all the weapons.
I don't want to play the game. I just
good.
want to see the show. But I like how they show you the different styles. Each Mandalorian's armor is personally unique to that person, and the different gadgets and weapons, and also it digs into the mythology of the Mandalorians a little bit, which I thoroughly enjoyed.
Yeah, I thought all that stuff was cool. You really get all of the greatness of the armor and all that stuff in the 3rd episode when he goes to rescue Baby Yoda from the Imperial, I guess bolt hole, I guess is what you would call it. Yeah. Their little fortification there. But yeah, he's got it all, man. I mean, fucking flamethrowers and grappling hooks and
whistling birds.
Oh, those whistling birds. That's the sickest shit ever. Yeah, Ray and I were talking about it. We used to play the Star Wars RPG, and we were sitting there talking about it. I was like, dude, it is so good that shit did not exist when we were doing it, because we'd have every motherfucker trying to crash build rules.
And that's
everything.
Another thing I have to mention is we actually see vibroblades this time.
Yeah,
it was big in the RPG game, but you never really saw them in any of the films. And here you actually got to see them being used, and I like those little touches like that.
Yeah, it's kind of like it's what would be a crossbreed between a lightsaber and a blaster. It's a melee weapon that has an energy cell inside of it. So I mean, it's cool. I'm talking about some of the other weapons, and this is the big spoiler surprise at the end of the season. It was something that was established in Clone Wars is the Darksaber, which makes its appearance at the end of the show. The legend of the Darksaber is that it was built by the first Mandalorian who was accepted into the Jedi Order. So it's a lightsaber, but it's just built to a Mandalorian specs, much like their armor. And instead of it being this either blue or green or red saber hilt, it's this black blade that actually kind of absorbs light instead of refracting it. And it's really fucking cool that they integrated this into it, because it was such a big part of the Clone Wars mythology. I mean,
Rebels as well.
Yeah, and Rebels. I mean, if you think about it, I mean, now that this is part of this show, that weapon was held by Darth Maul at one time. Yeah. So I mean, it adds. It's just it's not a thing that you think about. When you think about it, you're like, dude, I mean, holy shit, that's all connected stuff. It's awesome, man. Really cool.
There's a 3D virtual reality experience in Disney that's been there for a couple of years, and it's called Secrets of the Empire, and it's you strap on a helmet and a chest box, and it's virtual reality. You actually walk through a completely realized environment that's Star Wars, and you have a little mission to complete. The Darksaber is even in that.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, that's actually the MacGuffin of that virtual reality experience. I've done it twice. It's an amazing experience, but I was very surprised that they used that.
Oh yeah,
as the MacGuffin. And now that we're seeing it show up in Mandalorian, it was in Rebels, it was in Clone Wars. I just think these guys are really on point. They know what they're doing, with these things by bringing in these little tidbits of from past episodes or past series or what have you. They bring these back. People say, "Oh yeah, I remember that." It's just those little things that I appreciate, when watching the new show. bringing back the old things that you oh yeah, I remember that from that series, or I remember that from that movie, or whatever. Just those things count to me.
Sure. Well, I mean, and it's thinking about moving forward with the show, and it's impossible kind of not to bring up, because I mean, now that we've experienced all this stuff with Star Wars, with the movies, we know that there's a shakeup coming in Lucasfilm. It gets me thinking about these. A lot of people are like, oh man, we want Favreau to take over, and we want Filoni to take over. Well, man, those guys are hot to trot right now on a hit television series, and they're talking about a movie that only comes out now in 2 years. So 2022, there's going to be a Star Wars movie. That's what they say. So let's say that that's true, okay, and that's what ends up happening. Does Favreau and Filoni have the time to spearhead this thing while they're doing that?
Exactly.
It makes you wonder if they're really going to back up on this thing, which I hope they do.
Yeah, you don't want to spread these guys too thin, because if they got their hands, in too many projects, I think that's where other people get the ability to step in and kind of screw up the works, if you know what I'm saying.
The other question too is that the directors who directed these Mandalorian episodes, some of these directors are big time. Yeah. I mean, you're talking about Taika Waititi. I mean, this guy now has
Waititi's amazing. If you have not seen Jojo Rabbit, I highly recommend it.
Yeah, I've heard everything great about it. I haven't seen it, but I mean, dude, he's at the point to where he's going from indie to blockbuster. So that's a major guy to get to do a Star Wars television series. Bryce Dallas Howard, she directed an episode. Debbie Chow, who she's already moving on to take over Obi-Wan. That's going to be her next project. Yeah. Rick Famuyiwa, I mean, that dude directed Dope. I mean, he's another guy that's kind of this indie. He was supposed to direct the Flash movie, and that movie's been in development hell. They've fired like 5 directors from that movie, but he was the original guy who was going to do it. So when they bring a guy like that over to do Star Wars, you can sit there and say, well, this guy was going to do the Flash, so he's obviously legit. So I mean, the question with it is that does that kind of become the breeding ground for the next generation of Star Wars directors? I mean, it could be.
It could be, and with that, with that next movie not being a trilogy movie, so to speak, it doesn't lock them into this storyline that, all right, so we have like this 7, 8, 9 thing that just happened. We knew we were getting 3 movies on that, and so they were invested, and it was JJ, and then it was Rian Johnson, and it was supposed to be, and then they had to sort of fix it with the directors they had. Whereas with this, if it's one movie, and say Favreau gets somebody that he trusts to do it, it could be great, and then they can move on from that and get another director, or use this same director, because they're not overstretching into the future, so to speak.
I mean, I know that they're hot to trot and they want to get movies out there because movies make a lot of money. But
just as long as they have a plan.
That's all I'm saying.
Just have a plan. Don't just wake up one morning and say, hey, I'm going to make a Star Wars movie today.
Well, and that's it. I mean, dude, The Mandalorian shows you. I mean, basically, Favreau walked in and said, look, man, this is what you got to do. Okay, well, now that we know what we got to do, let's get out there. Nah, man, fuck that. Make a plan. Put a plan together because, man, this isn't Marvel where you can sit there and kind of retcon your history from movies.
Well,
it has an established mythology. Right. That's what it is, Well,
The Mandalorian has actually been more or less born in the early 2000s, back when Rick McCallum was still involved with Lucasfilm. They were going to bring a live-action Star Wars TV series back in 2007.
Right, we had covered this information in our review of we reviewed the first episode of Mando, didn't we?
Correct.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So and that's
so
it.
It goes back a ways. So, and I think back then they said they had already had X amount of scripts written. Now I'm sure since years have passed, they've changed those scripts and changed some ideas more or less. There was also, I believe, a canceled video game.
There's been a bunch of them.
Yeah, but I mean, it was specifically going to be what the Mandalorian eventually became. It was all about I think it was Underworld or 1313.
Yeah,
or
1313 was the name of it, and like everybody is still heartbroken that 1313 never came out. This was going to be the biggest Star Wars game of all
I think
time.
in a way we're seeing 1313 as a television show because they took, from what I understand, and I read all the time and I get little tidbits of information from here and there. But I've read that, yeah, they took some ideas from that. They took some ideas from their original pitch of the Star Wars show back in 2004, 2005, whatever it was. So it really has been kind of in development to a greater or lesser extent since the early 2000s.
Yeah, and depending on who you talk to, I mean, it was different things at different times. McCallum said that it was going to be a series that dealt with a bunch of criminal organizations that dealt with the fall of the Emperor on Coruscant or some shit like that.
Yeah.
And then somebody else said, well, no, it's going to be a story about Palpatine as a young man before he becomes the Emperor. That was another, yeah, right, exactly. So, and I think another thing, too, is they flirted with that, because they had done young Indiana Jones, but streaming platforms has entirely changed the game now.
Yeah.
Because the thing with it is now you have direct revenue to do things. So, which speaking of, they reported to stock investors the other day that Hulu, ESPN Plus, and Disney Plus is valued at $100 billion.
Yeah, I read that. Yeah, amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Netflix still at 156 though. So it
and,
goes to
and
show
yet,
you they're
and
still
yet
the
Disney
king.
still wants to raise the prices at the theme parks.
Yeah, right. Well, but that's the thing though. It all depends on the experience they give you. But the theme park thing though, I think the theme park thing is kind of a similarity of what you're seeing happening with the Disney Plus. Disney Plus launched. They gave it a cheap price, but I mean, really truthfully, outside of Mandalorian and the Imagineering documentary and a couple little things here and there, I mean, I watch Netflix more than I watch anything.
Well, I do too, but I think they have, I don't want to say their entire catalog, but a good 98% of their entire movie catalog, and then some, is available for streaming at any time. My kids, well, they're kind of grown now, but my kids, I mean, they had all these DVDs and all these Blu-rays of all of these movies, and, over the years they get lost or misplaced or whatever. But now, I mean, it's all there in one place,
Right.
Just click a button, there it is, so that's the reason. And plus, it was such a great price. I mean, $6 a month.
A cup of coffee. I mean, and less than that if you took advantage of the founder special.
Right.
I think we got it for under $4 a month, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So
I mean, how can you go wrong? I mean, all of that content at your fingertips.
Well, and I mean, and the gift keeps on giving. It's been officially announced that on February 17th. That's going to be the airing of the first episode of Clone Wars season 7.
Yeah.
So we'll get that in a month.
Yeah.
So
I'm looking forward to that.
Oh,
as well.
definitely, dude, without question. And that's saying that's also going to start tying into the Mandalorian. You're going to see some things there. I wouldn't be shocked to see Giancarlo Esposito show up on that show, voicing a young version of Moff Gideon.
That's another one. I thoroughly enjoyed the Moff Gideon character.
Yeah.
I just when I saw him on the episodes. I think he was just in the last couple of minutes of episode 7, and of course a bunch in episode 8. I was just like, I want more of this guy. I want this guy to be the series villain for the next 10 seasons or however long it lasts. I mean, Esposito, of course, from Breaking Bad. He was also in a short-lived sci-fi show that I liked in around 2014, I think. Revolution is what it was called.
Yeah,
it was where all electricity on the planet.
Oh yeah, I remember that
didn't
show.
work anymore, and he was one of the generals of one of the factions. Yeah, I mean, he seems to play these villainous characters, but he's got this cold, calculating way about him. But he's just so damn cool.
He also played the Mirror in Once. That you remember that ABC?
Oh yes, yeah.
Well, not short-lived special. It went on for a while. He played the Magic Mirror.
Yeah.
Okay, well, shit.
Yeah, he's a great actor. He usually plays villains, and I mean, I don't think they could have found a better person. And I mean, he's standing there in his Imperial outfit with his high and tight and his little pencil-thin mustache, and just his attitude is like, oh, if you're asking you can trust me, you can't. It's just like, whoa.
And he came out there,
ice cold, yet cool at the same time.
Exactly. I'm like, I want more of this guy.
Yeah, and I mean, when I first saw Werner Herzog, I was like, man, this dude's like, there's those actors that you look at that you sit there and you're like, dude, these guys were born to play like Imperial, You know, like Imperial guy, like
Yeah.
Benedict Cumberbatch. Like they said, he's going to play an Imperial guy. That's like a lead. Oh, no doubt.
I used to say years ago, back when we were playing the role-playing games in the 90s, like, man, Christopher Lee would make an awesome Sith.
Yep, and he ended up
and
as-
then he ends up as
Right.
Count Dooku. You know, it's
Yeah.
just like you said. There are certain actors that are just
They're tailor-made, yeah.
they just fit right into that mold. You know, and I think Giancarlo Esposito is definitely one.
I think both of those characters are great. The client, who is
Yeah.
Werner Herzog's character, and also Giancarlo Esposito, yeah, they're fucking great. And I mean, just the stuff that's in there. I mean, the shit that you just love. I mean, I love the thing. I mean, your boy's such a badass. They come out of that building and all that shit. First thing he does, point blank in the face to a stormtrooper.
Yeah.
Pow! Just shoots him right in the fucking head. I'm like, God, dog, Jesus, that's sick.
Yeah, and I'm like, this is Disney Channel. Tone it down, guys.
Yeah, right.
Which is odd because they
Shows
it's-
violent,
it's
man.
violent
Yeah,
as hell,
yeah.
but it really does straddle that line of, well, it's super violent, but we're not really seeing a ton of blood, and we're
Right,
not really
right.
seeing when the knife goes in or
Right,
this and that.
exactly.
So I think we know it's violent because we know, but to a kid, they might not see the what's implied.
Yeah, I
in
mean,
that sense.
when I was, when I first saw the original Star Wars, when the stormtroopers come busting into the Rebel blockade runner and everybody's blasting the shit out of each other, I never once sat there and recoiled in my seat going, "Oh my God, people are dying!" It's just like, "Oh, cool!"
Yeah, right, exactly.
And then I got the same feeling watching this show.
Oh, that was a reaction I had when your boy used that flame projector to basically barbecue that stormtrooper. I was like, damn.
And then when the
burn that motherfucker.
the craftsman or craftswoman, I should say,
Yeah, the
when
armor,
when
yeah.
the stormtroopers came in and she just took the tools and just started beating the shit.
And-
And at one point she strikes one of the stormtroopers and you see white plastic, not plastic, but white armor pieces shoot up into the air, and then the other stormtrooper, she takes the face right off the helmet. I
Right.
was just like, holy crap, I can't believe I'm seeing this, but I've been wanting to see this for years.
Yeah.
I just didn't know it.
And that's it. It keeps it in the spirit of Star Wars,
Yes,
but
yes.
gives it a little bit of edge.
Yeah, but
And
you
it's
don't
great,
you don't
man.
see
It's great.
any blood. Just like when they killed what's his name, Queel. You don't see it actually happening. You just see his body laying there on the ground.
Right.
And I was a little bit disappointed in that because I really liked the character, but it is what it is. But you don't, like you said, you don't actually see the blood or the knife going in, but you know what's happening. So, and I get that they kind of have to walk that fine line because it's
fine with
Disney.
it.
Yeah,
I'm fine
I'm
with
totally cool with it. Yeah.
Yeah, Mandalorian on a jetpack versus a TIE fighter is pretty impressive too.
Got to
Yeah.
get me one of those.
I love that. Yeah, I love that also when he's got the jetpack and he takes out the explosives and he's just like it as soon as he takes off your boy.
Yeah.
He realizes he's fucked.
Yeah, and that's
Really
another
cool.
thing. For being a TV show, the battle scenes are just absolutely incredible.
Right?
I mean, when he was trying to get past Grief Karga to get to his ship, and he was surrounded, and he jumped behind that speeder, and he's pinned down. You're like, how the hell is he going to get out of this? And then all of a sudden, freaking death from above. I mean, I'm in my living room going, yes! And my wife's like, what are you doing? What's going on? It's just like, I was like, look at this shit!
the quality of this show.
Whatever, nerd.
Yeah, that was pretty much what she
That's
said.
it. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're not gonna get any pussy for 3 months.
So, like, the quality of this, wouldn't you pay money to see that movie in the
Oh,
theater?
hell yeah, absolutely.
We do this on every show, but I feel like this is Disney's testing ground. Like, check out what we can do for TV.
Oh,
Do we
without
really
question.
need to put out a giant blockbuster?
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. And
the
reason-
revenue
Yeah.
alone. I mean, Chris and I talked about this earlier. In 2019, out of the top 10
what if-
money-making films worldwide, Disney has 7 of them.
I understand that,
you
but
know?
what if it were a Disney Plus thing? And I say this all the time. We already paid for it, but what if it was like for an extra $10? You can see this brand new Star Wars movie that we
well,
spent $100 billion.
That's going to
on.
happen.
and
that
I'll be
will
like,
happen.
yes, I want to
eventually.
watch it in my house.
That's going to happen, Scott.
I would not be opposed to that.
Neither
No,
would I.
wouldn't.
But I'm just like, I
But
feel
then
like
again,
you're getting there.
It's going to be way more than $10.
But then again,
know, whatever.
I'm the type of guy that I come from old school. I went to the movies a lot with my parents. it's the experience of just getting out, getting in a huge darkened theater, you know.
Yeah, but that experience sucks now because people talk and they're assholes and
you know,
inconsiderate pieces of shit.
Yeah, that does happen. I mean, there are sometimes. I mean, I've had incidents where I've had to turn around and say, "Hey, knock it off."
Yeah.
That's part of the problems. You get the general public, but then again, in this day and age, you've got these huge, flat screen TVs now. I mean, I've got a 70-inch screen at my house, and I'm not bragging. I'm just saying I have that, but they make them bigger than that,
Yeah.
But it takes up almost the whole one wall in my living room.
Did you see the wall by Samsung?
Yes.
113 inches?
That's crazy.
I want one, and I want Mexico to pay for it. Absolutely, dude. Put that, dude. If you have, I was doing the reading on it. You have to have a certain dimension of doorway just to get that fucking TV in your house. You have to have a certain way to get
insane.
in. You can't like own a regular.
That's insane.
You can't be lower middle class and own that motherfucker because, dude, all you can afford is an 8-foot doorway.
You're not getting in one of those old New Orleans houses.
Yeah.
It ain't happening.
That's it, dude.
Small door, big room, small door.
Yeah, right. That's
Cramped
pretty much
closet,
it.
Yeah.
I mean that's exactly it.
But as I was saying, I've got this big screen TV. I've got a Bose surround sound system. So I've got theater quality, television and movies at my house already. I can watch it whenever I want.
Yep.
I could sit there in the in the middle of the room in my underwear. Well, not really. I mean, I got kids, but you get the idea. I can be comfortable. I can watch when I want to watch. Don't have to worry about people bothering me. Idiots.
I feel like that's the theater experience. I don't know what you're talking about.
Man, look, you get the cast iron pot, you bring it to 350, you throw the flank steak in it for 2 minutes, you flip it, let it sit for 5, tin foil it for 10 minutes, get you some asparagus. Hit the table, eat that shit, watch your Star Wars movie. If your kids start telling you, shut up before I fucking beat you, and look, and you can actually get away with that, or hit pause with it, go kick their ass, and then come back and watch the movie. Piss when you want.
Exactly.
Don't have to worry about anything rude. I would pay $100 to watch a newly released movie in my house. Easily would pay $100.
50.
Oh, I'd pay $100 because the thing with it is that I can never go alone. I'm always going to have somebody with me. So the thing with it is that right there alone, going to these premium theaters, now you're at $20 tickets. I'm at $40 just for me and somebody.
Just to walk in the door.
Then you got meals. Then you got gasoline. Then you got all of the shit that's... You got to involve all the bullshit of trying to find a babysitter. Somebody to do
who
all
doesn't
that shit.
want a $6 Coke?
Fucking right, dude. Exactly. I mean, and I can do better. Look, I can spend $6, get a Coke, and put vanilla ice cream in that bitch for $6.
Yeah, you got
so, I mean, that's it, dude. Blend it up, get it going. I mean, I don't have to do all this bullshit. And watch it in the privacy of my own home and not have to deal with rude, disgusting people.
Well, let's hope Disney can keep on putting out great content like that.
If they keep it in the hands of the people that it's in now, and if they keep going in this direction, I think all they can do is succeed with it. I don't even think it's going to happen that season 2 is going to premiere and people go, oh, well, that sucked. Don't think that's going to happen at all. I really think they know they've got lightning in a bottle with this, and they're going to go with it.
If this continues its trend, look, Clone Wars and Rebels both were shows that had first seasons that really kind of like tried to get themselves established.
Yeah.
And then after that, man, like when it got to season 2, like halfway through, the afterburners came on, and I think you're going to see the same thing. We've established the characters. Now we can really flex them and let them do some cool shit.
I don't even feel that The Mandalorian required all that much of a warm-up period or establishing period. I think it came right out the gate, ready to go, ready to entertain, say, look, here's what we've got, here's what's going on.
Oh, no doubt. I just think it's only going to get better. I think the thing with it is talking about the depth of the characters and the storylines are only going to get better from here on out. Yeah, I mean, Jesus Christ, we talked a long time about this shit. Just to wrap up a couple of things real quick. Look, Disney Plus, definitely check out The Mandalorian. Do a thumbs up from all of us, huh?
Absolutely.
Thumbs way up. Especially
best thing to happen to Star Wars since the original trilogy.
100% agree with you. Also, some other little stuff on Disney Plus. Man, seriously, check out Imagineering. It is a fantastic documentary. It's only 6 parts. It takes you from the time of Walt Disney starting the Imagineering department to today, how all the rides are built, how the parks are conceptualized, all that shit. And it's just a documentary about really fucking creative people.
Yes.
And it's fantastic.
Yeah.
Really, really good.
Yeah, I've been meaning to check it out. I haven't had a chance.
It's
but
excellent, man.
Yeah, I have been meaning to check
Really
it out.
good. But I mean, that's what we have for now. But look, we got Clone Wars coming up. If you're not into the animated stuff, look, man, Marvel at the end of the year. Shoot, we're going to get 2 Marvel shows at the end of the year. We're going to get WandaVision, and we're also going to get Winter Soldier and Falcon. So I mean, we have that. So, there's going to be a lot of stuff that's going to kind of really start kind of ramping up as the next couple of years go by. 2021, we'll get Obi-Wan. And
I'm really looking forward to that.
Oh, yeah, dude.
Yeah. And then when do we get Loki?
Loki comes out in 2021.
There you go.
So, I mean, that's it, man. I mean, they've already rolling out a bunch of Marvel shows, and we have the Marvel animated show, What If? That's going to be coming out. So, I mean, it's really cool, man. I mean, it's just going to take a little time to ramp up on the content, but it's like Ray said, man. For the price, it's worth it. They're not going to jump up, I don't think they're going to jump the price up for a few years until they can really get.
As long
really
as all
get the
those
ball
people don't
rolling.
watch The Mandalorian and then cancel their subscription.
I don't know that. Why would you? At $6, you're like, I just
Exactly.
saw this great
yeah,
show.
Yeah, and then
I'm all right.
and then when Obi-Wan comes out next year, or not next year, season 2 later this year of Mandalorian. Well, I guess I'll get it back again, and then that season's over, so they drop it again. That's kind of ridiculous. But like you said, for the price, it's not worth the time of making a phone call to cancel it.
But again, that's why we got streaming, so we can cancel it and come back to it.
Well, I guess so. Future of entertainment.
That's it. No aggravating contracts. So there it is. All right. Well, look, we appreciate you guys listening. Ray, thanks for coming on.
Oh,
man.
no, thank y'all.
Dude,
Thank
we
y'all
enjoy
for
having you.
having me.
And dude, when it comes down to this stuff, man, no, you're always welcome back.
Nerds.
Yeah, we'll be calling you, dude. Really quick on that, national championship for LSU was playing this Monday.
Yeah.
As this recording, it's going to be January 13th. The guy who did they've gotten a celebrity or a former athlete that went to the school that played on the football team or in LSU sports to do voiceovers. John Goodman did the one for the Peach Bowl, and I thought to myself, wouldn't it have been fucking awesome if he did the coach speech from Revenge of the Nerds on this?
Shit, we forgot to practice.
You just got your asses whipped by a bunch of goddamn nerds. Nerds!
Shit, we forgot to practice.
Yeah, shit, we forgot to practice. So, hey, look, on that note, we appreciate you guys listening. Make sure to jump over to iTunes. Please subscribe. Leave us a review. 5 stars only. If you're not in iTunes and you want to check out our links over on YouTube, you can go over there. And also on Facebook, we have the PPVGuys group. Please join. We're posting stuff all the time, especially Nate. Nate's been posting like a motherfucker.
That group's taking off, man. We're getting a lot of
we've been getting
of good stuff.
Yeah, but we got Alan. He's been posting some cool stuff on there. So yeah, man, good shit. Definitely join in. We have a lot of fun, and always be prepared to bust balls. We love it.
2 million, Scott. 2 billion.
2
billion, Scott.
That's for the next show.
2 billion.
Hey, I'm holding that in my vest pocket. So
Can't wait.
there it is. All right. Well, look. Thanks for listening and seeing.